If you are an estate agent, letting agent, or someone who is interested in the property market, then this, the weekly UK property market stats show, is for you. My name is Chris Watkin, and each week I have a different special guest. This week it's Rob Smith. We'll come to Rob in a second. Why should you watch this show? Well, the British are obsessed about the property market. We all fawn ourselves over the land registry data, the Halifax and nationwide. But I don't know if you're aware, ladies and gentlemen, the land registry is looking at data from sales that took place around January, February time. And the Halifax and nationwide are looking at sales that took place in the summer. We're looking at house prices. We're looking at activity in the property market last week. Last week is week 44, and I'll just pull up my calendar. That's Monday, the 28th of October, all the way through and including Sunday, the 3rd of November. The show itself is roughly split up into two. The first half, Rob and myself will look at the UK property market this week and compare it year to date, and also compare week 44 in relation to other week 44s going back over the last 6 or 7 years. The second half of the programme is where we focus on a town or a city or a suburb and really deep dive into that. Now, if you are an estate or letting agent, especially an estate agent, and you're suffering from estate agents who are overvaluing or cheap fees or any of the other problems that estate agents have, then even though the area we're looking at, which this week is Putney, which is SW17, SW15, you will still potentially find it of interest, because we're going to be using a bit of kit which basically analyzes the town and sees which agent is good or bad or indifferent over a multitude of metrics. It's a bit like Rightmove Plus on steroids. It really is fantastic. I'm a bit of a fanboy. I know Rob is as well, and plenty of us are. So the second half, as I said, is on Putney, and we'll get to that in about half an hour. Rob, shall we go and have a look at this week's stats and see what the scores are?
Yeah, definitely. Look forward to it.
Here we go. So let's just check. Can you see just the graph on the screen with our little pictures at the top? Is that?
I certainly can.
Right then. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who have not watched the shows before, what actually happens here is I spend about a minute looking at the different metrics. So first we'll start with listings, which for anyone who's not an estate agent, there's the new homes on the market. And then Rob will give his insight. Okay, so we'll start off. The number of listings this week that we've put onto the market is 28,643. An average price of a property coming onto the market is 412,000, nearest damn it. Year to date, in terms of listings, we're on 1.538 million, which is 8.1% ahead of the same time in 2023. And 7.4% ahead of the average of 17, 18, and 19. Just to give some context, that just gives you an idea of where we are. Okay. Now, in terms of the weekly listings, the white line is the number of listings. As you can quite clearly see here on the white line, that the number of listings is down. But as we would expect to more similar years of 2017, 18, and 19, and 23, we are following a downward trend throughout November, and which started off at the start of September. You can see that little dip there, ladies and gentlemen. That is the August bank holiday. And again, we'll just remind ourselves, to those that are new to the show, those that have already watch every week, you'll know this, is that the way listings always work is it takes off after January. We have 3 dips for Easter and the 2 spring bank holidays. And then we just basically do a nice little drift over the summer, dip down for August bank holiday, and then a drift downwards all the way through to the C word. Scores on the doors. What's your thoughts, Rob?
I think it's pleasing that there's a very good number of instructions coming onto the market, despite the time of year, which, as you said, has a natural decline anyway. So that's not concerning. Good number of instructions come on. Budget or recent budget tends to historically slow the market down a bit, but it seems we've still got some confidence from vendors that they want to sell and they want to move. So, well, a good good opportunity to fill your boots with instructions and to get your stock.
Well, again, ladies and gentlemen, let's remember that the budget did appear middle of the week with regard to this. So we will have a look at the fall through figures later just to see if that's made any difference. Because I know we've had some people commenting that it's end of the world, but we'll have a look at the stats and see on that. Right. Let's move on and look to number of price reductions. Okay. So the number of price reductions as a percent, well, we'll just look at the raw numbers first. We've reduced 19,056 of the properties that we have on our books. And let's just remind ourselves, ladies and gentlemen, the number of properties that we do have on our books. We've got the updated figures from 20 EA. And as we went into the start of November, we had 724,984 properties. All the yellows are the end of October's. So we close the books at the end of every month, and all those yellow lines are all the 31st of October's going back, so we can compare apples with apples. So in terms of 724,000, we'll call it 725,000 between friends. Let's just go back to our stats here. We are therefore reducing approximately 14% of our stock per month. And that's for the month, but the figure of 19,000 is for the week, but we always like to look at the month. The average price of a property being reduced, £385,000. What's your thoughts on price reductions?
My personal opinion is there's not enough of them because because of the number of instructions coming onto the market, and B, because of the record availability. I think you went back to your first stat, there's more instructions come on the market this year than there has been since 2017, since your record show. So it's been a very active listing market this year. Stock levels are at record highs, which was your last slide at 725,000. I think price reductions or realignments, whatever technical words you want to call them, I think are low for the time of year. Maybe people sitting and waiting until the new year because they think the market might be better, but I'm not sure that would be good advice from an agent to sit tight. So I would have expected a higher number of price reductions, bearing in mind there's more on the market and more listing. And I would have been encouraging my vendors, if I was an estate agent, to get the price right now, because we all know what's going to happen in the first week in January, Chris, or on Boxing Day. If we think we've got record numbers now, watch what's going to happen at the end of December and in January. And if your price isn't right now, it definitely isn't going to be right then. And you've got a whole heap of competition to sell your property.
What would your advice be to estate agents? Vendors. It's coming now to the autumn. We're in the middle of November, and some of us are going to be getting our magic phone call saying, "I take the property off the market. I don't want people to come around whilst the decorations are up." Well, how would you counter that?
I think we've seen that there's activity in the marketplace. I think we're going to come on to sales later on, which will show that there's still buyer activity in the marketplace. What would I be advising my vendor? I'd be talking to my vendor saying is get your price right now, because there's still lots of people looking. So let's not get in that competitive market in January. If you've got an offer, I'd be really, really conscious of trying to take that buyer out of the marketplace. And if I'm buying on, I'd go and find something else because there's lots available. So if there is a buyer in the marketplace, take them out, get them secured on yours and go find. And I'd be encouraging, if I was an estate agent, and I know a lot of the people that I'm working with are doing this, I'd be looking at home visits. I'd be going back and sitting on the sofa with the client and saying, what's the strategy? What are we going to do this side of Christmas to get you sold? If you really, really, really do want to sit tight and wait, what's the strategy to make sure you're still on my books in January?
Yeah, indeed. And as I said, if listings are down, then your valuations should be down as well. So there's no excuse whatsoever with regard to going to do those visits. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, what I was taught when I was the estate agency is a property won't sell because of two main reasons. One is the marketing and one is the price. So again, a great tip that one of my old area managers used to say is he thinks, well, I won't get this reduction. So you go in, ideally face to face, but you could always do a Zoom call, especially if you haven't got both decision makers, and basically say, right then, what we're going to do is this. It won't sell unless it's two reasons, marketing or price. So what I want us to do is let's refresh the marketing and over the next week, and then I'll get you to look at it, and I want you to make sure that you're 100% perfect. And the reason you're doing that, ladies and gentlemen, is that you're basically covering off that base so they don't come back. You change the marketing and then you go back 2 or 3 weeks later and you say, right, that hasn't worked. So it can only be one reason. Remembering that you should be working out what the motivation is and using that to get the price down. People are not stupid. When you're selling a 3-bedroom semi and it's at the top end of the range. And again, another tip that I used to do is put the comparable evidence on the desk and then ask the vendor to put their property, in the mix. There's 5 properties. Where would you put this one? You say, well, put it there. Well, that's got an extension. You can't be working, and then get them to choose the price. It's all psychology, isn't it? Right, should we move on and let's look at the gross sales. So gross sales this week, as we would expect in November to be dipping. So this week we were on 24,090. Last week we were at 25,851. But to give you an idea of where we were in other years, let's just pull that up. In 2017, the number of properties that were was sold to the contract was 17. It was otherwise, so I'm mixing my numbers up there. I do apologize. I tell you what, let me just pull this up. It'll just be a damn sight easier, won't it? There we go. So those are our number of sold to the contracts this week. And you can see from the graph that at 24,000, that's not bad, because when you consider that 2020 was 20,600, and in 22 it was 18,900. So we are well ahead of the pack there. I'm quite chuffed to bits with that. Any thoughts on that one?
Just replicating what we've already said. There's a lot of demand. There's a lot of people who will buy, which means we have to really take every offer seriously, and the vendors need to take every offer seriously, because they might not be just offering on one property. They might be offering on multiple properties based on the fact that there's a lot of choice. So don't just dismiss an offer. Really, we've got to make the vendors really think about it hard, because it's a buyer's. The availability. It's a buyer's market at the moment, and they've got too much choice. And sometimes we've got to live with the fact that if we want to get sold, we might have to review our expectations on price, but take the buyer out.
I love that phrase. Again, ladies and gentlemen, what you should be doing with these graphs, and what I would say to you here now is this: is that anyone watching this, you're more than happy for you to download these graphs. They're available. If you're looking on YouTube, if you look on the write-up section, they are in the description. If you're listening on the podcast, they're also available on the description there. And you would use these graphs wisely. So if you were trying to find someone to say, look, the property market's doing really well, you'd use this graph. And then there are other graphs if you need to get the price down. But, there's some other graphs that will help you get your price down in a second. But again, let's just be chuffed to bits that, we're 20% ahead of last year. We are nearly 30% ahead of 2022. Obviously, we're nowhere near as the 2020 figure. But when you consider that, compared to 17, 18 and 19, which are more normal years, we are still 10% ahead of them. So, but I think the important thing is this, as Rob rightly said, is this: the number of sales are up, but the number of listings is also up as well. And stock levels are also up. Let's just remind ourselves here that, yes, we are 10, 20% ahead of some of these figures, but our stock levels in terms of percentage home selling, 724 versus an average of around 650. So just bear that in mind, okay? More sales, but the percentage of homes coming on the market that are selling is about the same. So just take that with a slight pinch of salt, okay? I'll actually, just going out of order. This is This is a little bit further on. We're not looking at sales here. We're looking at exchanges. And this is the percentage of homes that are leaving estate agents' books on a month-by-month basis. And in October, 53% of properties that left estate agents' books were exchanged. Then the other 47% withdrew unsold with you unpaid. Just to give you an idea, there's the graphs there. So exchanges are down last month and so withdrawals, but again, I would expect that. And it happens every October going into November. So yeah, more houses are selling, Rob, but more houses coming on the market. So we just
so we shouldn't be complacent that we're selling well. It rising tide and all that takes all ships up, so everybody's doing the same. I think the key is working out what you can do to get ahead of the average and the norm. That's the secret of the best agents.
Yep, right. Okay. So gross sales year to date are 1,095,000, which is 14.8% ahead of 2023 and 8.2% ahead of 17, 18 and 19. The average price of a property selling, 364,900. So we'll call that 365 in rounding it up. In terms of our residential sell-through rate, this is a relatively new graph. I don't know if we had that the last time you were on the show a couple of months ago. This is the percentage of your sales stock that you are selling. Okay. And in October, there was a slight uptick to around 16 or 17%. The exact figure I'll put in the show notes that you can read. But there's a slight uptick. But again, there's always a slight uptick in October, November time. And again, it'll drop back down again in November. She'll drop because it's November and December, then she'll go back up again. Again, quite shocking that we only shift 1 in 6 homes of our stock on a month-by-month basis. This is just a little graph here, which again, we're just refreshing. We're just looking at the UK residential sales agreed as a percentage of listings. So the red line is the percentage, and the blue bars are the number of listings coming on. So again, you can see here that we're in this 23 area, very, very similar to where we were in Jan and 19. Obviously, it went a bit crazy in 21 and 22. So again, things are doing okay. I mean, again, we're filming this on Wednesday, the 6th of November. We had the election in America. Will that do anything to the property market? I don't think we can really answer that one yet. And again, we're just some final figures on the price reductions. And the sale agreeds. We always measure the average asking price of a property coming on the market, and we always measure the asking price of the properties that go sale agreed. And we always look at the percentage difference on that one. And this week, the percentage difference is, I'll just pull up the figures. Hold on a second, Rob. Percentage difference this week is 12.9%, which is really good, showing that now did you know, I don't know if you noticed that regular viewers will know this, there's that spike in October and there was another spike in October. That's London. They all come back on the market. That affects just to give you an idea, ladies and gentlemen, we've shown you the sort of listings we're talking about. That is literally 3,000 or 4,000 extra listings in London, affects the averages that much. Scary. It's a scary London, isn't it? How it affects the UK property market.
As it affects the rest of the UK in most things that happen. But if we know it's there and we can predict it, then we can live with it. I think one of the points on some of the graphs that you've just looked at there, which if I was running my own business or I was as an estate agent, 15. So you're saying 15% a month of your stock selling, roughly. Yeah. So if we know that's the trend and we know that's the average, without wanting to make it blatantly obvious, if you've got a stock of 100, you should be selling 15 of them next month or this month. Yeah. Yep. So the question I'd be asking if I was sat in a branch is, do I know where those 15 are? So if I'm going into November, I should be selling 15. Have I got a list of properties I'm confident I should be selling? If I'm not, then what am I going to do about it? Because the industry norm of 15 is pretty, I mean, it's poor compared to what it has been. But what are you doing about finding those 15 properties if you've got 100 stock? That's a priority. And we're a bit short-sighted in estate agency in that we work week by week, when actually longer term, if I can sell 20 in November because I came into November with a list of 10 to 15 I knew we were going to sell and 5 or 6 that I was going to move forwards on, then I'm outselling the market, aren't I? It's just that bit of preparation, bit of education, bit of work on your stock that makes sure that you're doing better than the norm.
Yeah, I've just looked at the average for 2024 is 15.86. So last October was 13.86. This October was 16.1, and she will drop down. I predict probably to around 13 or 14%, and then she'll drop down to around 10% in December. And I think you're absolutely bang on, Rob. You as an estate agent, you should know which properties you're going to shift. You know, it's if you don't, then I question you how good you are as an estate agent. You should know, shouldn't you? There should be no.
Absolutely. And you should know which ones you're going to work on to get shifted and what you need to do about it. Going back to your point, is it marketing? What am I going to do with that? If I can't sell it this month, keep the price the same, give it some marketing. I'll sell it next month because I'll get a price reduction. You've got to work medium term on your stock and not be reactive week by week, which I think too many of us are, because we're stuck in that sort of we're stuck in that hamster wheel, aren't we?
Yeah, we are very, short term is the pipeline. The long term is the pipeline. It isn't. And that's the beauty of these charts is that you can use them as a guide. This is the UK average. And what I would say is I often in the background look at them separately. And quite fundamentally, there isn't huge differences around the UK. Like Rob says, it's a rising tide. London is a slightly different, but not massively different when it comes to percentages. London, you sell less, but you put more on the market. But outside London, you use this as a barometer and a bellwether. Right, let's move on to sale fall-throughs. And this week, in terms of sale fall-throughs, we had, just pull this up, 6,254, which is a percentage of gross sales is 25.96. But what again, measuring fall through rates as a percentage of gross sales, you're kind of measuring one that's coming into the sales coming in and the pipeline with the leak is on a particularly good measurement. So we bring this measurement in, which is what percentage of your sales pipeline are you falling through a month. Again, we always, if you notice, we have a slight uplift in the later months, and then it drops back down again. So again, I suspect there'll be a little bit drop, but fundamentally around 6% of your sales pipeline is falling through a month. And again, if you're getting less than that, you're doing really well. If you're getting more than that, then that should ring an alarm bell, shouldn't it?
Yeah, and that then creates the age-old battle of do you work on that to reduce the amount of fall throughs, or do you work on putting more in your pipeline? So if it's going to be 6%, then 6% of 200 in the pipeline is a better return than 6% of 100 in the pipeline. So again, it's a different way of looking at it. I'm not saying one's right and one's wrong, but if it's going to be 6%, then sometimes too many agents focus too hard on stopping fall throughs when actually could you spend a bit more time selling more, listing more, selling more, and having a bigger pipeline?
Well, I my personal opinion is you should do both. And that comes from great marketing to attract people to you, to get greater fees. Again, you don't necessarily have to sell more houses. Is what are you doing with your fees? And there's a bit controversial. I posted on LinkedIn a few days ago. Is that if you lose a property on fee, it's because you didn't prove your worth and your value. It's not to do with the vendor.
Yeah.
It's your fault, or you were the cause.
Yeah, you haven't differentiated yourself from anybody else. So customer age-old thing I used to hate was when customers used to say, well, I picked you or the other agent on the toss of a coin. Well, you haven't done your job properly if they're just picking it on that at all.
Yeah, that's absolutely awful to hear. And really, it's your responsibility. I mean, I asked it in a poll and we got a lot of feedback. What's the biggest reasons? And the thing that shocks me is that most people said it was training development. And the question is I find it fascinating that most valuers don't go on any form of training, or more importantly, development. You know, they did their course through one of the corporates about 20 years ago. And don't get me wrong, the corporates are very, the corporate, that's one thing the corporates, well, probably not so good at now, but, countrywide were absolutely amazing. And there's plenty of good people out there that came through the countrywide when they were forced to be reckoned with. And that's just my opinion. But when
Yeah, just echoing in on the back of that is, if you've got a valuer going out and you haven't been and sat on the sofa with them for the last few months, probably you haven't sat on the sofa with them for the last few years. You really haven't got a clue what they're saying to that customer. And I'd be going back out there and reminding them of what good looks like, because the job of being a valuer gets a little bit habitual at times. Certainly, if you're doing a lot of valuations in a day, and getting out there and seeing them and tweaking them and putting them back on the rails again is absolutely time well spent.
Absolutely bang on. It shocks me. I think, how many employed bosses just measure their valuers by their KPIs. Absolutely unbelievable. But again, when you consider that there's only, I challenge anyone to give me the name of more than 10 estate agency trainers that are freelance that can come in, and there's 14,500 estate agency firms. Shocking. Absolutely shocking. Okay, so let's move on to net sales. Net sales is gross sales less fall throughs. And this week our net sales are 17,836. When you compare us with 23, that was 15,274, and we compare ourselves with 22, that was 11,593. And interestingly, if we compare ourselves to 21, we're knocking on the door. That was only 18,000. Yeah, it's really, to say, if you'd have said number of net sales is going to be within 3 or 4 5% of 2021, you'd November 24, you'd have snapped their hands off. Of course, it's nowhere near what it was. The yellow line you see is 2020. That was a crazy year. But in terms of Stato Rooney's, in terms of year to date, we're on 838,627, which is 17.4% ahead of 2023 and 5.8% of 17, 18, and 19. Remembering, ladies and gentlemen, these are going to be your exchanges and exclude new homes. So therefore, we are probably going to end on about, and I called this a few months ago, we're going to probably end up, when we add the new homes in, probably somewhere in the order of 1.21 to 1.24 million transactions. We won't know those numbers probably until late spring, but that's what I'm calling. Okay, not bad at all when you consider we did 1.12 last year. Okay, and that's, as I said, there's just some more graphs on net sales. Anything else on this you want to say?
No, just reinforces everything that we're talking about. Is there's enough stock to do even better than that. I'm not. We always want more, don't we? But I think there's enough stock available to do better net sales than that. That's what I'd be championing.
Yeah, too right. Couple of graphs: gross sales as a percentage of listings and price changes as a percentage of listings. I know some of you like those graphs. We've done these, but this is the orange number is exchanges. Sorry, the red is exchanges. The yellow is withdrawals. Okay, it's just nice to track. The pink line is your percent properties leaving estate agents' books. What percentage? We've seen this already. Well, just to remind ourselves, this is all UK estate agents. That's the percentage of properties leaving books that exchange and complete that month compared to withdrawn and sold. We've already done the stock levels. This is agents pipeline. So again, we're at 504, which again, when you consider that the pipelines in more normal years of 17, 18 and 19 were in their early 300s. Sorry, let me rephrase that. The mid to late 300s. That's really good. And some of you will say, well, that's to do with the fact is that sales are taking longer. They were taking longer then as well. There's not much change in terms of the stats. We'll come back to prices in a second. A couple more just graphs. This just shows you the proportional split. Some of you like this one. The green number is the properties in your pipeline unit numbers. pardon me, the orange number is properties for sale. That's just a nice split. And again, there is that. That's just showing the raw numbers on that, just to give you a flavour of where we are. I'll just finish on this one, and then Rob, you can give your thoughts. This month we've had a slight uplift in, and if you recall, I am really passionate about this. The orange line is the magic line, okay? The orange line is the pound per square foot achieved on sale agreed this month. So we'll just pull up the stats. Hold on a second, just 2 seconds, Rob. Here we are, and I'll just put it up. Here we go. Good, right, here we go. So this month we are pound per square foot on listing, which is the red line, is £380. I do take that with a slight pinch of salt. It's just nice to know where it is, but I'm not too concerned about that one. What I am particularly concerned about is the orange line, which is the sold to contract figure. And last month it was 339, and this month it's 346. So we have seen that orange line a slight uplift there. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that orange line, if you match that against the land registry, it is 92% perfect, okay? With a Pearson coefficient. That orange line will foretell the land registry figure in 5 months' time with that sort of accuracy. So we can know where the top of the market is and where the bottom of the market is 5 months advance. So that's one reason why you should watch the show, because we know where the land reg is going in 5 months' time. What's anything you want to say on anything I've rambled on about in the last 3 minutes?
I think a lot of what you put in there in terms of percentage you're selling on stock, on instructions, on price per square foot, everything that you're talking about there, that there's, and you mentioned it earlier on, there's one metric that we tend to ignore, but we shouldn't ignore, is the price we're charging for doing it. So I think if price per square foot's going up, and if prices are going up, then our fees should be going up rather than going down. And we've got to look at that as a industry and as a business to ensure that, yes, the customer's getting value for money. 100% agree with that. But we can't keep selling properties for less, irrelevant of what marketplace we're in, because we're just undervaluing ourselves.
Again, I've mentioned it many times, Rob, and apologies if anyone's heard this many times, but the average fee was 1.6% in 2006, and today it's 1%. Okay, and yes, house prices have risen, so fees have risen, but even if you take that into account and you take into account inflation, every estate agent is earning between £1,000 and £1,500 less per property in real terms than what you earned. It's no wonder that, the average salary of, even this is the scary bit, is this: the average salary of a neg is lower than the proposed minimum wage, when it was 58% more back in 2016. The premium of a neg's job was 58%. This is figures from Ian Preston. 58% gap between the minimum wage and what a neg's salary was. I know there's commission on top, but now at the moment it's 11%, and it's going to be almost identical. It's no wonder. Now, again, the chicken and the egg. Fees have gone down, so we can't pay people, or so therefore new people are not attracted to become estate agents. The answer is improve your service, Rob, isn't it? Improve your service, improve your fees, attract the right people. What's your thoughts? I'm rambling.
I've always been an advocate of two things on recruitment. Is one, grow them organically. So bring them in, trainees, apprenticeships, whatever you want to call them. Office juniors, they used to be back in the day.
You remember when we used to stick on photographs?
Sticking on photographs. Yeah, exactly. That's all they were allowed to do. So whatever the title is, and I know that sometimes you have to kiss a lot of frogs to get a fantastic employee, but I think there's opportunities within there to look at what we pay and how we develop and how we bring them through that's cost effective. And the other thing is, and this is a bit more scary, is I'd always go for the quality of the candidate, to an extent irrelevant of their experience. So I'd rather pay more for a quality individual than somebody who's jumping ship from other places and they've got some experience. And that whether they're a valuer or whether they're a negotiator or whether they're a mortgage advisor or whatever they are, invest in quality people. And if you have to pay them a bit more, it'll pay you back in the long term.
You are so right. Interestingly, I was talking to some agents at the EA Masters yesterday, because that's what it was yesterday, and they're going down the lines of having the same wage bill, but instead of, say, having 5 people in the office, having 2.5, but paying them absolute top dollar, and the 2.5 with absolute top dollar, they get more out of them than having the 5 average ones. Which, again, just consider that, okay? And remember, you can outsource everything. You can outsource viewings. You can outsource your sales progression. You can, the only thing you need to do is turn up to the valley. You can outsource everything. And you'll be amazed how many agents are outsourcing stuff at the moment. Right. Okay. Anything else before we go to Putney?
No. I'll do a bit of a summary at the end on what I think to everything. So no, let's get into Putney.
Good stuff. Let's go and have a look. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is the second part of the show. This is for Putney estate and letting agents. But again, as I said at the top of the show, if you are an estate or letting agent, especially an estate agent who's suffering from cheap fees, and you need something to counteract it, then this software I'm going to be using is something you should give serious consideration to. It is, I'm a bit of a fanboy on this one. I know Rob likes it as well. So let's go and have a look and go to our screen. And what we're going to be using today is a piece of kit called Insight. Insight is a platform that is created by the firm 20EA. 20EA have a number of different platforms, Insights just being one of them. This is like Rightmove Plus on steroids with lasers and glitter balls. This is the problem with Rightmove Plus. She only goes back 13 months. This goes back 5.5 years. Okay, so we can really track things, and it has lots of data. And we're going to be analysing Putney, which is SW15, as I said, along with Rob Smith, who is the boss man, group managing director of Hunters and Whitegates, and a couple of other little franchise, not necessarily little franchise firms. If you want to find out more of him, go to his LinkedIn profile. But okay, Rob, so we're going to be looking at SW15. As always, I'll just keep rambling and then you just cut across me when you see something interesting, or I might ask you a question. As I said, there's no plans to this, no rhyme or reason. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. As I said, we're looking at SW15. We'll just switch off the new homes because we don't want the new homes. And let's just pull that in a bit. Here we go. Right then. So we are looking at between the 1st of January 2029. Just pull that back. There we go. The 1st of January 2020, the 1st of January 2019, my apologies, and the 5th of November 2024. We are looking at residential sales here, new instructions. And we can quite clearly see here who the number one player is. So in the last, as I said, 5.5, 5.75 years, Kinley's have been the number one agent. So let us have a look and individually analyse the agents and just see who the movers and shakers are. So firstly, we're going to start off with Kinley's. And it appears, and again, let's just actually, we'll just move that there to the 31st of October, because it's just a whole, I think it's just fairer for everyone. Right, so here we go. It appears to me that Kinley's, they're spiking as low as 5 and they're spiking up as high as 15, but their average is pretty consistent around that 10% mark. Their average price is 782 compared to the average of 857. So they're lower to middle. Okay, let's go and look at Chesterton's. Again, there's a slight amount of growth there from probably an average of 5 or 6 up to probably 6 or 7%. Okay, let's go look at James Anderson. No one seems to be pulling trees up, mate, do they?
No,
No.
no, it's very consistent across the board for all of them. Very. No one's disturbing that marketplace much, are they?
No, so Chesterton's 895, so they're mid of the road, so we'll call them more Marks and Spencer, Sainsbury's. James Anderson 688, so again more Tesco's, sort of mid of the road Asda's. Okay, Dexter's. Their market share seems to be drifting slightly downwards from around 7 or 8% to around 5 or 6%. Let's go look at Savills. As I would expect, the average price of 1.3 million. We will go look at the upper quartile in a second, ladies and gentlemen, because it's only fair. Let's go and look at Winkworth, who I believe is a franchise. I think that's the only major franchise group you lot don't own, isn't it? Only time. So 1.4, so they look like they're in the upper quartile, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go look at Foxtons. Foxtons seem to be growing there from around that 4 or 5% mark to probably around 5 or 6% mark. Let's go look at Douglas and Gordon. So again, we saw growth there of 2021. Then obviously they went more online. We had all the issue with them selling with Foxtons, then James retaining the, so they're hovering around that. Well, you can see here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6% mark. Slight growth there. Well done. But he's off a low figure. Alan Fuller. Again, I bet that's April. Yep, it was. So again, you'll take that with a pinch of salt. That was April 2020, where we were in the lockdown. Hamptons, slight growth there, but again, we're dealing with smaller agents here, so it's going to be a bit more spiky. Brinkley's, Barnard Marcus, Warren, Sterling Ackroyd, Purple Bricks, very similar to what they do nationally. Lauriston's, not putting many trees up there. Andrews and Knight Frank. Okay.
Everybody seems happy with the lot.
Yeah, it's a bit boring, isn't it?
There's nobody that's gone up. There's nobody that really has gone down. In the last 5 years, the marketplace has stayed pretty stable in terms of market share for each agent. No, is anybody grabbing hold of it?
Okay, so we're looking now at the upper wall tile here, top 25%. And immediately we can see Savills are the number one player. Let's just take off the million mark. So this is million above. Let's go 2 million. We'll just wait for that. So we'll just see who the super ones are. So Winkworth seem to be. Oh no, here we go. So Winkworth look like they are the uber posh agents, and Savills down. Oh, okay, there's three. This looks like there's 3 of you there that are in fighting, but Winkies are. We'll just have a quick look. Okay. We'll just let's just pull in that 2 million, just see if that changes anything. Winkworths again, but again, oh, here we are. And we'll put in the millions now. So it looks like Savills' sweet spot. Savills seem to be really strong in the 1 million to 2 million.
1 million to 2, yeah.
Yeah. And there you go. Well, Kinley's given a run for their money. But then Winkworth's and Chesterton's seem to be, I think that just, yeah, definitely Winkworth seem to be the daddios at the really posh stuff.
At the top end, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, there's nothing, yeah, no one's putting any trees up there. Anything on there before let's just have a quick look at, no. We'll look at sales in a second. Anything else on here before we move on?
No.
Right, okay, here we go. So, this is my favorite graph, absolutely favorite graph. And what we're looking at here, ladies and gentlemen, are the percentage of okay, so there's lots of data here, and I will make no apologies. If you're not into your data, then some of this will go, oh my God, but there is absolute gold here for some agents here in Putney, like groundbreaking stuff that you could say to a vendor that why the reasons why people should use you. That they're honestly, guys and girls. So what I want you to do is I want you to totally ignore new instruction market share, sold subject to contract, and sold subject to contract percentage. Okay. We are looking at between the 6th of November 23 and the 5th of November 24 for the postcode, as I said, of SW15, which is Putney. The real gold is in these four columns here, ladies and gentlemen, exchange and withdraw. If you recall, we looked at the show earlier on. The property will only leave an estate agent's book if she exchanges or withdraws. So therefore, the percentage of exchanges are the percentage of homes that leave your books that you get paid on, withdrawn, you don't get paid on. So the average in Putney in the last year is 47% of the properties that are leaving estate agents' books exchange contracts. That is bloody marvellous for London because the average for London is around 32, 33%. So sometimes it's as high as 36, but that is really good. So that shows me that we have a good market that agents are shifting the stuff they're selling. That is that is be chuffed to bits because if you went another 2 or 3 miles in town, ladies and gentlemen, that number would drop like a stone. Okay. Okay, let's look at the percentages. So Kinleys are at 60. So they shift 60% of the houses that they put onto the market. James Anderton at 59. Winkworth's at 66. Foxton's at 42. Savills at 59. Chesterton's at 51. Now, Dexter's, the way Dexter's do their listings and the way they work, I have to say that they're not as low as 14%. I'm just telling you here and now. But just because of the marketing decision of the way they list their houses and mark them sold or not, as the case may be, there's only we can't, and the data that comes out, that number is high. I'm just telling you, ladies and gentlemen, so do take that with a pinch of salt. But if I was say Kinleys and going up against Foxtons, let's just have a quick look. We're not criticising Foxtons in any way. Been to Chiswick Park, love them to bits. Just love the atmosphere there, great atmosphere. But the bottom line is this: if I was Kinleys and I was up against Foxtons, you could say this, Mrs. Miggins, you have a 42.56%, or nearly as half as much chance again of moving your home with me at Kinleys. And James Anderson are very similar things. Winkworth's even more. You have a greater chance of shifting your home with me compared. And here's the proof. Powerful stuff, isn't it?
Better chance of selling, less likely to withdraw.
Yeah, let's just have a look. So let's look at their fall through rates. Okay, so the average is 24.92. Let's just see if there's anyone there that has a low or high. So immediately, James Anderson has a high fall through rate. Interesting. That's sale fall throughs. Winkworths have a low fall through rate at 18%. 41. Who's that? Alan Fuller. Your fall through rate, that rings alarm bells. Are you instructing them too early? There could be a multitude of reasons, but just bear that in mind. Is your sales progression? We will look at how quickly each of these agents do their sales progressions in a second. Let's see who works their stock. Okay, so Winkworth's 25%. So we'll look at their price reductions to see if they price right, because we're going to look at that in a second. Once we've got some, the average is 44. Foxtons reduced 6 in 10 of their homes. Oof. Remember the stat, ladies and gentlemen. If a sale agrees within 25 days, the chances of it actually going through to, exchange and completion are 94%. If a property takes more than 100 days to get a sale agreed, that sale agreed has a 56% chance of going through to exchange and completion. And if you overprice, it takes longer to get the property sold. And therefore, whilst you might get your listing bonus, good for you, you're effing it up for your vendors, and you are effing it up for your team, and you're effing it up for your firm. And again, I don't know what your thoughts are in this, but I'm of the opinion, personally, that listings bonuses and market share bonuses should be totally removed from a estate agency. Am I talking rubbish? What's your opinion?
I think experience has taught me that if you pay for upfront, you get the numbers, but you are very less likely to get the quality. Very less likely to get the quality. And therefore, it's something that we do as much as we can do to stay away from, because it just creates more problems within the business. You've got higher vendor expectation, you've got more vendor checks to do, you've got more people to disappoint and get price reductions on and do loads of work at. All of that is ineffective time. So spend time doing quality things rather than instructing on loads of properties that maybe the vendor's over optimistic on price, maybe the vendor isn't as motivated as you think they are going to be, and you're putting stuff on the market that's not going to sell. It's just ineffective use of everyone's time in the office.
I mean, what interesting, what we can see is that there are some agents here that potentially are overvaluing, but still getting the exchanges through. So I suspect, because there is such a thing as ethical overvaluing, I have a high suspicion that Kinleys and James Anderson might be overvaluing, but they're working their stock well and subsequently getting them through. You know, normally if you're waiting for your price changes 12, 15, 16 weeks time, you won't get them sold and won't get them through to exchange.
No, I'd suggest, and I don't disagree with you, and I'm not advocating having a punt on price. What I'm advocating is, and maybe that's what these two do, is they set a realistic expectation with the vendor from day one and say, look, I'll have a go. I'll have a go at this higher number, but if our marketing and the market is showing in X amount of weeks' time it's not working, we need to come down. So maybe that's what they're doing, and therefore the vendor's more likely to give it a try at a high price and more likely to come down, and therefore you get it at a price that sells. So there's a mixed bag. There's a mixed bag, and it boils down to vendor motivation more than anything else. If the vendor's motivated, try it a bit more, get it on the market. If they really want to sell, they'll reduce it. Prove that it needs reducing with your marketing and your stats and your numbers, and get it down to the right price and sell it. So just don't be all in one bag.
Bang on. And again, this just shows us our market, just a separate note, market share growth, that Winkworth have grown in the last year. As of Savills, there's some decent growth here. Chesterton seemed to have dropped a bit, but again, we looked at that earlier on, just what that graph's about. And again, ladies and gentlemen, this is called Insights from 20EA. What I would say is this: I do believe that the vast majority of these larger firms have this platform called Insights. So have a word with your area manager if you want this sort of data. And then anyone who's independent watching this, I believe there is a freemium version, which is quite limited though. And then you can buy it on a town, you can buy it on a region, and you can buy it nationally. Do not mention my name. I'm not on commission. I'm just a massive hashtag fanboy of this. This is amazing stuff that if you know how to read stats, give us a shout. And again, if there's anyone reading this and just have a look and just find it yourself. It's really fantastic stuff. Right, let us have a look. Here we go. This particular graph this chart shows us who is overvaluing and how close they're getting. So let me just explain this to the ladies and gentlemen watching, and then from that point on, you can analyze your own numbers. So the way this works, ladies and gentlemen, is that they look at the number of properties that you've put onto the market, and then they analyze this is what 20EA do. They put a Valpal figure on your property, or an automated valuation model. Valpal is just like saying the word Hoover, isn't it? And then they analyze that and see what percentage they think it's worth this, and you put it on for that, and then they work out the percentage difference. So what this is telling me here in this first column with the orange bits is that Kinley's overvalued by 1.71%, James Anderton 0.76, Winkworth's at 1.13, Foxton's at 4.99, Savills at 0.28, Chesterton's at 1.33, Dexter's at 1.73, Allenford at 1.6, Hampton's at 0.32, and Bard & Marcus at 0.93. The average, we'll just scroll down to the bottom, is 1.23. You can see that here, okay? So then what they then do is they then look at how close did you get to that original asking price. This is almost like a get agent price, but it's their own analysis. And what that's telling us is that on average, Kinleys get 3.63% less than their original asking price. James Anderton 1.53, Winkworth's 4.45, Foxton's 12.126. Wow. Savills minus 2.28 and Chesterton's 8.3. Let's just see if there's a correlation, Rob, between price reductions. Okay, so let's just have a quick look. So who are the ones that were guilty with price reductions? So Foxtons. We're not getting at Foxtons, we're just looking at the figures. So Foxtons are overvaluing, according to 20A statistics. They bring their prices down a lot, 60%. Where is it? Here.
But most of them withdraw still, I think.
But most of them withdraw. If there is not a story here that tells you overvaluing ruins your business, it's that. Let's look at Chesterton's, okay? Chesterton's 67% of their properties price change. Do they overvalue? Not so much, 1.3. Not that's quite low compared to this, but they get 8.33% less. Wow. Don't know what's happening there. Okay, percentages are percentages, and a lot of people don't like them. So basically what happens is they say this: if everyone put on the same £900,000 house, what would each agent get? Kinleys would get 882, James Anderson would get 892, Winkworth would get 869. So this is showing you how productive you are as an agent. And this is, again, automated valuation models. So if you disagree with any of these stats, you speak to 20EA. These are stats that all your competitors, or I know for a fact that a huge chunk of all of the agents that are on there, so the corporates, have this bit of kit, because every corporate just about has this bit of kit. And if it's called Insights. So if you are a branch manager in any way, speak with the area manager, show them this video. This is the most amazing bit of data that you can find, and you can prove that you are an awesome estate agent. There's quite some variance there on the prices, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll let the numbers speak for themselves.
Some of it doesn't compare to the previous slide, but yeah, it's
Well, we have to take Dexter's out because, again, the way Dexter's, bless them, love them to bits, but the way they it's difficult to measure them, so we have to take that out. So we can take Dexter's out. We'll just exclude them like that because, again, it's just you can't really judge them. Yeah, just
what's interesting, or not, as the case may be, is the lower volume agents are getting average property price variance higher than the volume agents who get lower.
Yes, what's that telling me is if you are a lower volume agent, you will get a better price.
Yeah.
You can see here, look at the numbers, ladies and gentlemen. Now, again, we do have to take the slight pinch of salt, is that if you've got a low number of properties and you're using an automated valuation model, the numbers are going to be a bit more. But again, there's damn lies and statistics. If I was one of these smaller agents, I would certainly be using this sort of data myself. Let's move on. How quickly do agents sell houses? The average in the year is 80 days to get a property through to exchange from new instruction to sale agreed. Let's just have a look. So we've got James Anderson, they take 38 days to get a sale agreed. Kinleys 54, Winkworth's 49, Brinkley's 80. Okay, Foxton's 78, Chesterton's 135, Sterling Ackroyd 211. Again, smaller agents, so the numbers are going to, you only need a few in there, and it messes up the numbers. You can see here that and then the pink line is how long it takes to go from sale agreed, so contract to completion. And you can see here, James Anderton take 121 days, Kinleys 119 days. But if you add them all up, if you need to move quickly, James Anderson is the agent of choice, and Chesterton's 246 days versus 159 days. That's 80 days. That's 3 months. I'd be using that if I was James Anderson, Kinleys, or Winkworth to get my homes through quicker. Let's just refresh ourselves. 80 days to get a sale in the last 12 months. What did it do the 12 months before that? 70 days. So it is taking longer to sell a house. How long is it taking to get from sale agreed to completion? 128 days now in the last year compared to 119 days. That's bucking the national trend. Nationally, the sale agreed to completion numbers are reducing. So obviously sales are taking a bit longer. But again, there's a higher propensity of appointments in London, and they do take a bit longer, but that's quite strange. Anything on this before we go and look at lettings?
No, not really, other than there's not a massive difference between most people's sale agreed to completion, obviously down to chains and everything else. So, yes, you can spend a lot of time on sales progression, but by the looks of all of that, it's not having a massive effect on your time to complete. The biggest success on time to complete is how quickly you sell it and do you get the price right and is your marketing good?
Indeed. What's screaming at me with Hamptons is I bet you a pound to a penny that they hold off sale agreeing until probably survey's done. That's what normally that screams at me, but I might be wrong. I don't know. Okay, let's go and look at lettings. Let's just have a quick look at average rents. So in 2019, the average rent was 2.2. Let's go and look. Now this is interesting. 2.2. This year it is 2.6. And this will interest you. 2 seconds. There. Did you see that? It went down. So what happened to rents in London is they were there, they dropped, and they went back up. Okay, which blows the trend. So the amount of people, I do buy-to-let presentations, as I know you know, Rob, and I was talking to a lady, and she's my son's rent has gone up by 50%. I said, I bet I can tell you when you rented in London, and it was July, August, September of 2020. She said, yeah, how do you know that? Because rents went and then they come back up. Yeah. Interestingly, rents in inner London are 4.8% cheaper in real terms, i.e. after inflation, than they were in 2016. That blows your mind, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Scary as hell. Right, let's sit. Right, okay. Okay. So let us have a look and see who the main players are. Okay, let's look at open rent. Open rent have grown from an average of 5% to just under 20%. Okay. What is particularly interesting, ladies and gentlemen, is this. Number of properties in the private rental sector, it might feel like there's 20% less. There isn't, because we've got the stats on the number of rental properties in the PRS. It remains very stable in the last 4 or 5 years. They've actually gone up slightly by about 170,000, but not a huge amount on the whole scale of things. What's been happening is this. Open rent are the biggest letting agent, if they were a letting agent, and they are bigger than you. That's you in Hunters, Whitegates, Belvoir, Martin & Co, Foxtons, Dexter's, Andrews, Connell's Sequence Group. Actually, they are bigger. They are the number 2 to number 15 is not as big as number 1 as in open rent. And the scary thing is, and I've said this number of times, ladies and gentlemen, 50% of the properties that open rent put on the market in 2023 had previously been rented with a high street agent. I haven't got the formal stats of 24, but anecdotal evidence suggests it's about the same. And you can see that. Rob, you are boss man of Hunters and Whitegates. You know your shit. That's a technical term. What do letting agents need to do to make sure that landlords aren't leaking out the door and going self-managed? Talk to me.
I don't think it's changed. It's all about service to the landlord. It's all about value to the landlord. It's all about compliance, regulation, security, knowledge, ensuring you're getting the right rent for them. I suppose the key thing is making sure that the landlord honestly believes that the management fee they're paying you is justified. And I don't think enough has been done, is being done to give the landlord that confidence. Because obviously cost of living, mortgage rates, everything's changing, and landlords have been put under more pressure from a cost perspective, so they think I can do it myself. the issue with that, which we all know, certainly moving forwards with the Renters' Rights Bill and everything else that's changing, it is there's a risk to that. It's a bit of a gamble, bit of a roulette. But if a good quality letting agent really does build a proper relationship with the landlord, and the landlord believes that the value is there, they won't go unless they desperately have to, but they won't go, or they tend not to go. The issue is the right person having a conversation with that landlord, or is Johnny the Neg, who's been there for 5 months, talking to the landlord, and the landlord's thinking, you haven't got a clue what you're talking about. Might as well do this myself. Or I haven't heard from you since you let it out.
Whilst you're absolutely bang on there, can't disagree. And again, I think we're all very guilty of just bringing up with landlords with problems, not actually proving our worth. And I think, everyone was running around like headless chickens about purple bricks. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the biggest challenge to lettings. If you look at the national figure, it's only going in one direction. So what are you doing to prove your worth, to prove your value? Because otherwise, if you're just taking your 10% or 12% and just ringing up with problems, then they think, oh, this is easy, I'm going to do it myself.
I think, not to be controversial, Chris, and I might get shut down, centralised property management remotely in a call centre in the middle of nowhere hasn't helped. Well, it's helped open rent and it's helped other people, but I'm not so sure that again, lack of relationship. I speak to the branch about one thing and I have to call a call centre up for something else. Not sure that the landlord is particularly fond of that. So I think that's possibly accelerated in some businesses the attrition of their portfolio to open rent.
Good stuff. Right, let's have a look. So Foxtons, really good news there, guys. It looks like you're growing your rental portfolio there. And again, I'm really impressed with Foxtons with regard to their rental side. I was talking to a couple of their guys at head office a couple of months ago. Their technology is amazing and their people are absolutely fantastic. So well done there, Foxtons, on the letting side. I just wish on the sales side is that probably you weren't overvaluing as much. I'm not criticizing, and getting more houses on the market and getting them sold. But if that's the sort of business model you want to run, that's totally your choice, and I respect it entirely. Let's go look at Kinley's. Oh, wow, look at that growth. That's big, isn't it?
Yeah, they've
I
stepped
don't
up.
know this. Whilst you were talking, I just checked to see if Kinley's made a letting acquisition in that part of the world. I couldn't find anything, although I only literally have 30 seconds to look. That screams to me acquisition, because again, what we're looking, we can't judge stock level. We don't know what their managed portfolio is, ladies and gentlemen. But when you have more portfolio, you tend to have more tenants moving out, and that's screaming at me an acquisition. But I could be wrong. If it isn't an acquisition, that is amazing growth. So huge, well done on that one. Let's go and look at Chesterton's. Slight drifting downwards there. Sterling. Again, a slight drift. Although Sterling have just sold, haven't they?
Yeah.
Sterling Ackroyd have who have they sold to? I can't remember.
Can't remember, but recently.
Yeah, so that number's going to be drifting off. Dexter's, Alan Fuller, going to get a bit spikier now, ladies and gentlemen, because the numbers are lower. No one seems to be pulling trees up here. So they're all slight drifty downs. Quite tight. There's lots of baby agents here. Brinkley's, Savills, Chamberlain Residential, Barnard Marcus. We'll go down to number 20. Surprised about Lauriston's because they were a big player in Putney years ago. So Winchester White. Okay, well we'll just go down to Lawson and Daughters as well. Okay, right then. I think we'll call it there. Final thoughts, Rob?
Final thoughts. It's still an active market. There's lots available to sell. You're at risk of losing it. If you look at your days to withdraw, which is quite a key indicator, do something. So if my days to withdraw is 120 days on average, that's the average time a vendor's either they haven't sold, have withdrawn, I need to put a marketing strategy in place to do something before that death date, for want of a better phrase. Have a plan, have a strategy, and on that, stock management is absolutely vital as we move forwards. We can't neglect what we've got because we've worked so hard to get it on the market. And I've used the phrase a few times: is when an offer comes in, we've got to take it to the level that it deserves, of speaking to the vendor face to face and talking to them about, if I'm moving on, can I take that buyer out the marketplace? Can I stop them from viewing this weekend by saying, I'll take the offer if I can find something? Hopefully stops them from looking elsewhere. You go find something, and there's that much availability. Hopefully something will be found. So there are techniques in the marketplace to move forward. I just think it changes the dial, doesn't it? Every quarter we've got to think about a new way of acting, but it's no different to what it might have been 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
Wise words as ever. Thank you for your time today, Rob. More importantly, thank you for watching. The graphs, as I said, are available for personal use and also at valuations, but not to be used on social media, because my daytime job is I'm a ghostwriter. I write local articles on local property markets, a bit like a Savills research department for independent agents. Again, if there's any agents watching this looking for some content for their social media to talk about the local property market, give us a shout. But anyone else, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next week for week 45 of the show, where we have a different guest. Rob, thanks for your time today, and see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.